Hey guys, we're going to be doing chapter 7. We're talking about lesson 7.5. We're going to be factoring x squared plus bx plus c trinomials. So whenever we're writing a polynomial as a product of factors, it is called factoring. So we're going to take our x squared plus bx plus c, and we're going to undo the FOIL method. So our answer is going to look like the FOIL method before we did the FOIL method. So two binomials. So we're going to take our trinomial and we're going to undo it to get back to our two binomials that we started with. So our steps for factoring trinomials are three pretty simple steps. Our first step, we're going to need to determine the signs of the binomial. So are my binomials going to have a plus plus? Are my binomials going to have a minus minus? Or am I going to have different signs, a plus and a minus, inside my binomials? Okay, then after that, we're going to find the factors of c. So we're going to find the factors of our last number. Remember, that's our constant number. That's the number without the variable. And then after that, we're going to decide which factors of c we can add together to get b. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with step 1. Step 1 talks about how to tell when both signs in the binomials will be positive. So both my binomials are going to have positives. That happens when c is positive. Okay, so when c is positive, then you look at the sign in front of b. So c is positive, so I'm going to look and see what's in front of b, and whatever is in front of b, that's what's going to go inside my binomials. Okay, so a positive means they're going to be the same. The first sign is going to tell us what sign is going to be inside the parentheses. Okay, so if the c is positive, both signs will be the same. And then we will look at the sign in front of the b to determine what the signs are. Okay, so on the next one, c is positive. C is positive, so that means signs are the same, right? So then I'm going to look at the sign in front of b. B is negative. Signs are negative. So inside my binomials, the signs are going to be negatives. Okay, so if my c is positive, I know that both of my signs are going to be the same. And those signs are going to be whatever sign is in front of b. Okay, now let's look at whenever our signs will be different. Your signs will be different whenever your c is negative. So when c is negative, signs are different. This will be very important later on. We will talk about which signs go with which numbers, but for right now, you just need to know whenever c is negative, your signs are different. It doesn't matter what the front signs are. You just need to know when c is negative, your signs are different. So we're going to practice this first step some more. It says, look at the following trinomials and fill in the correct sign into the binomials. So I'm going to look and see. Here's my c. Remember, we have x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so remember, we're looking at the sign in front of c. So if the sign in front of c is positive, that means they're going to be the same. We're going to look at this sign. That's a positive, so that means inside my binomials, I'm going to have two positive signs. Okay, here, c is positive. Take a look at our first sign. That's a positive, so inside my binomials, I have two positives. On the third one here, I have a positive in front of c. We're going to look at our first one. It's a positive, so I have two positives. Here we have another positive. We're going to look in front of b. That's going to give me two positives. Here I have a positive in front of c. I look in front of b. That's a negative, so that means my signs are the same, but they're negatives. Here's a C, it's positive. That means my signs are going to be the same. The sign in front of B tells me they're going to both be negatives. Here, in front of C, I have a negative. That means I automatically know that my signs are going to be different. Okay, here in front of C, I have a negative. That means I know my signs will be different. So right now, I want you to stop and I want you to go complete lesson 7.5 part 1 practice problems. All you'll be doing is looking at your trinomials, looking at what sign is in front of C, and filling in what signs will be inside of your binomials. So go ahead and stop right now, go to your Google Classroom, and go ahead and fill out those practice problems. Now that we figured out step 1, we're going to go ahead and move on to step 2 and 3. Okay, so remember, we're taking these trinomials and we're going to undo them and get them to 2 binomials. So essentially, we're undoing our FOIL method. Okay, so to undo our FOIL method, we're going to have to, remember we solve, let's do it here. First, outside, inside, last. Okay, so remember, my first part of my trinomial is the first 2 numbers of my binomials being multiplied. So x squared. How do I get to x squared? Well, to get to x squared, I'm going to take x times x. So I can go ahead right now, whenever you're just doing x squared, you can go ahead and fill in your variable and put that right there at the front. Okay. Now I can figure out my signs because I'm going to look. My C is positive. I look in front of my B, it's a positive. So that means both of my signs inside my binomials are going to be positives. Now, my next step says to find the factors of C. So I'm going to take 16 and I'm going to figure out its factors. So factors of 16, I have 1 times 16. I have 2 times 8. And that's all the factors of 16 that I have. Okay, now that means that I need to figure out which factors can I add to get to my number B. Okay, which factors can I add to get to 10? I can't do 1 and 16, but I can do 2 and 8. So that means that 2 and 8 are going to be my outside numbers. Okay, so now I have completely factored this trinomial. And we can check ourselves by using the FOIL method. Just like addition, you can check addition with subtraction. You can check multiplication with division. You can also check factoring with foiling. So if I were to FOIL this, I would have first, so x times x gives me x squared. Outside, x times 8 gives me 8x. Inside, 2 times x gives me 2x. And last, 2 times 8 gives me 16. If I were to put this together, I would get x squared plus 10x plus 16. Does this match this? Yes. So did we factor it correctly? Yes, we did. Okay, let's move on to our next problem. I went ahead and zoomed in so we could see it a little better. Remember I said right now, since it's just x squared, we can go ahead and write our x's into the first part of our binomials. Now we need to figure out our sign. So we're going to see that C is a positive, which means they're the same. The positive in front of the B tells me they're both going to be positives. Okay, now I need to find my factors of 14. So my factors of 14, I have 1 times 14, and I have 2 times 7. I need to figure out which one of those I can add up to get 9. Okay, so my factors are going to be 2 and 7. So I'm going to have 2 and 7. Remember, we can check ourselves by foiling. So I can say x times x is x squared. X times 7 is 7x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 7 is 14. So I get x squared plus 9x plus 14. Does this match this? Yes. Okay, let's try our next one. we're going to look at x squared plus 7x plus 6. Let's go ahead and fill in our x's. Okay, right here it's a plus sign. That means my signs are going to be the same. This plus sign tells me that they're both going to be plus. Okay, now I need to find my factors of 6. Factors of 6, I have 1 and 6, and I have 2 and 3. I need to figure out which one of those is going to add up to be 7. So I have 1 and 6. 1 plus 6 equals 7. So my factors are 1 and 6. I could FOIL that if I wanted to. Let's go ahead and do that just to check ourselves. So we're going to have x squared. Outsides gives me 6x. Insides give me 1x. Last gives me 6. Add those together, so I get x squared plus 7x plus 6. Oops. Does that match that? Yes. Okay, here we go. I have x squared, so it's x and x. I have a positive, which means they're going to be the same. I have another positive, which means they'll both be positives. I'm going to take my factors of 8, so 1 and 8, and 4 and 2. Which ones of those add up to be 9? 1 and 8 add up to be 9, so I'm going to have 1 and 8. So my binomials for this trinomial are x plus 1 times x plus 8. Okay, now I have x squared minus 8x plus 12. I have my x squared still, so we're going to have x and x. This plus sign means they're going to be the same signs, but this negative sign means they're both going to be minus signs. Okay, now I need to find my factors of 12. So I have 1 and 12. I have 2 and 6. I have 3 and 4. Which one of those adds up to be 8? 2 and 6 add up to be 8, so I'm going to have x minus 2 and x minus 6. When the signs are the same, it does not matter where the numbers go. It does not matter which binomial the numbers go into, okay? But whenever the signs are different, which we'll come to in a minute, we will have to decide which numbers will go in which binomial. Okay, I have x squared minus 12x plus 27. My x squared, we're going to go ahead and go x and x. I have a positive, which means signs are the same, and the signs are going to be both negative signs. Okay, I'm going to find my factors of 27. So I have 1 and 27, and I have 3 and 9. Which ones of these add up to be 12? 3 and 9 do, so I'm going to have x minus 3 and x minus 9. Okay, I have x squared plus 4x minus 21. Okay, my C is a minus sign, which means now they're going to be different. Now my parentheses are going to be different signs. I still have my x's in front. Okay, so now I'm going to have one positive and I'm going to have one negative, which means my numbers are going to be subtracting instead of adding with my factors. Okay, so I'm going to have 21. I need to find my factors of 21. So I have 1 times 21, or I have 4, not 4, 3, and 7. Okay, so now remember my signs are opposite, so I'm finding the difference now. Whenever your signs are opposite in the parentheses, you have to find the difference. So which one of these would subtract to become 4? Well, that's going to be 7 and 3. Okay, so now I need to look and see, is my 4 positive or negative? Well, my 4 is positive. So if my 4 is positive, that means the bigger number needs to be the positive number. So my 7 is going to go with a plus, and my 3 is going to go with a negative. So if I were to check this by foiling, I'm going to say my first numbers are x times x, so x squared. Outside is x times negative 3, so minus 3x. Inside is 7 times x, which is 7x. And then my outside is 7 times negative 3, which is negative 21. If I were to put these together, I get x squared. Negative 3 plus 7 is 4x minus 21. Does this Match that. Yes. Okay, I have x squared plus 7x minus 8. My sign in front of my C is a negative, which means my signs inside of my parentheses are going to be opposites. Okay, so I need to go ahead and find my factors of 8. My factors of 8 are 8 and 1 and 4 and 2. So now, which ones of these can I subtract since they're different? I subtract. Which ones of these factors can I subtract to get to 7? It's going to be 8 and 1. Okay, now I need to look and see, is my 7 positive or negative? It's a positive, which means my bigger number is going to go with the positive. My smaller number is going to go with the negative. Okay, so let's FOIL it to check. First, x times x gives me x squared. Outside, x times negative 1 gives me negative 1x. Inside, 8 times x gives me 8x. Last, 8 times negative 1 gives me negative 8. Put these together, x squared. Negative 1 plus 8 is positive 7. X squared plus 7x minus 8, is that the same thing as above? Yes. So there are my binomials. Again, if your signs are different, you're finding the difference. Okay, if your signs are different inside your binomials, you have to find the difference of your factors instead of the sum of your factors. Okay, please shoot me an email if you have any questions. Go ahead and complete lesson 7.5 part 2 practice problems. I believe there are 6 of them. You can find them in Google Classroom. And then once you are done with that, you can go ahead and get started on your Big Ideas math assignment. It's located under assignments. It's titled lesson 7.5 review. Again, shoot me an email if you guys have any questions, and we will see you guys soon.